What I was going to say is we've been talking quite a bit about, our conversation has been very domestically focused, but are people seeing opportunities in markets outside of the States right now? The story for a long time has been that really this is the only place where you're going to get reliable stock price growth and reliable earnings, but could that be changing? Could we see that change in the next 12 months?
Well, it's been a 50% outperformance for U.S. stocks versus international stocks in this cycle. So for the people that said you don't need international, they look really smart. That's absolutely been true. And you can look at that at any time frame you want, from 1 year to 5 year to 10 year. It actually gets worse and worse as the time horizon. So a lot of this currency driven, a lot of that is political, a lot of that is central bank driven. It's really tough to say when that's going to switch. I know some people look at technicals and they try to say, is one market breaking out relative to another? If you were playing that game right now, emerging markets would look pretty good. Yep. And then international markets would still be a toss-up. So look at that and try to decide fundamentally, when are people going to get excited about European stocks trading 12 times earnings? You know, I don't know when that will be, because you would have thought it would have happened at 14 times earnings.
Right.
And it hasn't. So
I think the problem with looking at international broadly is that there are such deep structural problems in places like Europe and Japan, right? And there's some good things going on in the Japanese market in terms of better corporate governance, better capital management, et cetera. But you don't have a lot of innovation, and you don't have kind of much in the way of GDP
You're right.
growth.
The industry differences are bigger.
Much bigger.
The tech sector is minuscule in many of these countries. Right. And if you're saying that's what's driving the S&P, then the outperformance makes perfect sense.
But if you look at the underperforming sectors, financials and energy, they're very dominant in
mining,
European indices.
Yeah.
So I do think emerging markets is a good place to look, and there are a lot of emerging markets that have structurally improved, and there are a lot of really good companies in a number of different emerging markets.
From a private market perspective, these structural challenges actually present opportunity. So if you just look at financial services, been spending a lot of time in Latin America. So on the one hand, you could look and say, well, credit card penetration, it's like 14 or 15% in a lot of countries, and it hasn't done anything for a while. But smartphone penetration has gone from that level up to 80%. So structurally, yes, we could wait for bank branches to be established all around and serve the population, or everybody's now got their smartphones. That's how financial services are going to be provided. And that's exactly what's happening. And I think what's interesting is that with the phone and all of the data provided, you can bypass things that would seem like structural impossibilities, like no credit bureaus and no branches. You have all the data that you could possibly need on the phone and the delivery mechanism. And so there's clever companies that are starting with small dollar lending, using data signals like how up to date is your Android operating system? You know, do you charge your phone at night, and a whole variety of other signals, and they're becoming the credit bureau and the bank at the same time.
To your point, like if you bought the Brazilian ETF 10 years ago, you have no return to show for it. But if you bought Mercado Libre, you're up like 1,000% and change, which is the payment processor / e-commerce play of Brazil. So that's a really good point that you made.
So there are massive secular trends that are opportunities for any global company.
Sure.
You mentioned basically financial inclusion, right? It turns out it's a really good business proposition to get the 1.5, 1.8 billion underbanked people as customers. You mentioned tools and diagnostics companies. In China, a lot of those kinds of companies are growing like a weed, providing the highest quality reagents, cell cultures for this move to biologics. Also things like air emissions monitoring, clean water. Again, we're not going to need any less of that in the future.